What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of SSPN. Oh my gosh, Ethan, there's so much to get into, but first of all, it's another season. I'm so glad to be here with you, and I'm so ready for some Spurs content. This will be a fun one that we'll get into later, but just we'll start off on a positive note. Just how hyped are you for the season?
Dude, I'm always pumped for Spurs basketball, no matter how badly we're supposed to play, or no matter how goodly, I guess, we're supposed to play. Excited to see the young guys play. Excited to have another season with you, Jude, almost every other night talking about Spurs basketball. I couldn't have asked for anything better.
Heck yeah, right back at you, my guy. We got our guy RR210 Texas already in here, giving a go Spurs go. And we'll go ahead and put up this other little special thing. This is a special edition that we've got for our first SSPN post game of the year. We've just got this little ticker down here that
Mm.
uh, shows the score, got some stats going for you guys. We decided on Keldon, Jakob, and Doug because that was kind of what we could go with tonight.
Yeah.
But man, let's just get right into it. I'm going to dish it to you. What were your overall takeaways from game one, 129 to 122 to the Hornets?
We came out super slow. It was clear that we were a team full of young, new players that don't have a lot of experience playing together. We looked a little unorganized, looked a little not disinterested, but just lack of aggression, I guess, if you will. Not a lot of guys getting to the cup. A lot of sloppy turnovers, and a lot of really badly missed shots. I mean, they weren't even bad shots necessarily, Jude. They were open. We just couldn't hit any of them. In particular, Devin Vassell, who went over 8 from 3-point land. I doubt that's a normal thing for the rest of the season. Just kind of first game jitters, but it was definitely not an expected, stat. I really thought Devin was going to come out and play really well, but he was not aggressive and his shot wasn't falling. So that's the recipe right there. Um, it's just this is what's to be expected. Honestly, we're playing teams that are better than us objectively. We are not going to win a lot of them. We would have liked to have seen a better game, perhaps a little closer, but it is what it is. We're a young team, and there are things that we can learn moving forward. I'm sure Pop is already dissecting the tape for practice tomorrow.
Yep, that is probably the most true statement that you've made
Yeah.
in the entirety of it. Is that Pop is probably already at the tape getting ready for
Yep.
practice. Our man D'Lo mentioned Keldon went nuts there for a minute, and that
Hmm.
was really the one time where when he hit those 2 threes back to back, that was really the one time where the Spurs kind of got themselves back into the game. I
Yeah.
believe it was either 11 or 13 points.
We got it down
Um,
to 10 at one point.
Okay. Right, right. And that was really you had that moment, and then you had when we came back a little bit in the first, and I believe it was like 25 to 22 or something. And those were really the only two moments in the game where it
Yeah.
was close. But like you hit on, if you guys were got a stream that had the broadcast or were watching Valley Sports, they kind of pointed that out at the end of the game. I remember Sean Elliott was talking about how look like 15 of these points right now are just from the way that we came out early, and a lot of the stuff that they attributed that to, which I agreed with, was just nerves. I mean,
Mm.
like I was texting you, it's a brand new team. We've been talking about it throughout the preseason. It was their first NBA game. You got a 19-year-old rookie starting for you, you know. And obviously other teams have 19-year-old rookies starting for them. Like Paolo Banchero had a great night, but Sohan is not that. And actually, I just mispronounced his name because the entire night on the broadcast, old boy Bill Land was pronouncing it Sohan. So
Mm.
I'll roll with that, I guess. I don't know. It'll slip up a couple times, but the point is, in the context of this team, like you said, the slow start, even in the jitters and the nerves, were to be expected.
Hmm.
So every game that you go into, in all honesty, you really gotta expect not much. You just gotta look for the good, look for the development, because that's really what this season is about.
Yeah, man. It was just I don't know. It was a lot sloppier than I thought it was going to be. I know we're a young team. I know not a lot of us have a lot of experience playing together, but just
Mm-hmm.
the amount of, bad
See even the
passes,
turnovers we
and
had.
we only had 15. I think they had 15 as well, which isn't like crazy outrageous, but for the Spurs, it's just an uncommon thing to watch is when we're going turnover crazy. And then I think also it was just the shots not falling that really threw me off, because they, like I said, they weren't bad shots. And we didn't look calm ever. Everything looked like forced. Like when the Hornets were playing offense, they were really, it looked fluent. It didn't look effortful. For us, everything looked effortful tonight. And then when you're missing shots, you're turning over the ball. Charlotte's going to make you pay. And they were getting a lot of points in transition. And our transition defense was pretty terrible. Like we were just letting them get to the cup. And if they missed the first shot, they were going to follow up with Nick Richards or Kelly Oubre. Somebody was going to get the offensive rebound or the putback because other than Jakob Pertl and occasionally Jeremy Sohan, we really didn't have a guy that was coming in, for that second tip, trying like fighting for that board, which is really hurting us. Like Zach, I love Zach Collins. I hope he works out for us in the end, but he plays a little too small for me, Jude. Like the more I watch him, the more I think that maybe we should give some of his minutes to Isaiah Roby, who I don't understand didn't get minutes until garbage time. I thought he played pretty well in preseason. I think that he can play in place of either Zach Collins or Gorgui Dieng. I don't think that's like a bad take. I think that he plays. He's able to space the floor. He's a stronger, bigger body than both of them. And in Oklahoma City, he played the five, so he's used to guarding some of these big dudes. I don't have an issue with him playing more than one of those dudes.
So I agree with playing Roby 100%. I actually think though that we should give him Keita Bates-Diop's minutes
I don't have
because
a problem with that.
and I'm not mad if you if you put him at the five either. And
Mhm.
I know that it was in garbage time, but still, we were joking about it beforehand. We basically took out the whole team with 8 minutes left, which
Yeah.
hopefully we do more this season when games are like this.
Hmm.
Which just it's the tankathon. It's the tank
It
Spurs. You love
is.
to see it like in real life and in real color. But I actually thought, just going back to Zach a little bit, I actually thought he played more physical than he did last year, at least in this game. He had 4 blocks,
Yeah.
was much more of a paint presence. But at the same time, I, definitely was not a perfect performance by any means. But I just felt like defensively, he was more of a presence than he was last year or what we saw in the preseason. One
That is
game.
true. 0 rebounds.
See, I didn't even see that. And there you
Dude
go.
had zero. I would rather you have 4 rebounds than 4 blocks any
No,
day.
and at that point, it's like that's where once again the Roby point comes in. Kind of what you were saying. I did not realize that watching the game.
He just lets guys, take boards from him, and
No, yeah,
I
and he
think that
let I forget who it was. Sorry to interrupt you, but he let somebody
yeah,
go by him like late in the game too. And I just remember even
yeah,
like Sean Elliott saying like you can't let that happen. Like,
I remember that too. I can't remember who it was, but I do remember that happening.
hmm
And it's not just on him either, because I mean, Jakob only had 9 rebounds, is pretty good, but Kelvin had 11. You know what I mean? So like as a whole unit, we need to be crashing the boards better. And I think that all goes back to aggressiveness. I don't think we were really getting inside the paint often enough. Like we were really just along the perimeter, dribble handoff, screen, try and dish it to the roll man, and it would get picked off almost every single time. And I don't know why that is. I think Trey Jones needs to be more aggressive too, because in that fourth quarter when we took everybody out, he started getting into the paint and actually like kind of sparked some momentum for us. He was able to get some floaters
he
to
had some
fall.
nice floaters throughout the game too, early when he would attack.
I hope he does that more often. And same goes for Primo. I think Primo was getting ball pressured a lot, just trying to get the ball out of his hands, which is to be expected. He's a young guard that has trouble, with his hands. He kind of coughs it up a little too often. Just like driving the ball. He kind of threw it out of bounds a few times tonight. He does that a little too often for me. He needs to tighten that up. That's just with age. It'll come with more reps. But if he could just, attack and be more aggressive, not even need a screen every single time, but just to take a guy off the dribble and blow past him, I think that opens up our offensive game, tremendously.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things you could probably
Yeah, there's
do
a
to
lot.
improve the offense, but Trey Jones, being a little bit more aggressive, this kind of goes back to what we opened this up with. I mean, it's a team full of really young players. Not,
Yeah.
this is Trey Jones's first time really being a starting point guard.
Hmm.
And it's the first game. So like there's going to be definitely an adjustment in this game. You hope to see some improvements as the season go on. That's what I was talking about earlier. It's
Yeah.
all about development, and that's why you were joking about Pop, being in the film room, and I'm sure that's something he can tell Trey. But I kind of want to just talk about um, just some of the other good things we saw tonight, kind of in that development. Just I don't know the word. mindset. There you go. Right. If you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at this game from that perspective and not, just looking at it like
Mm-hmm.
trying to win NBA basketball games, what were some things that you saw that were pretty solid?
I thought Kelvin Johnson played a great game. I thought he looked aggressive. He was one of the few guys that actually was both getting into the paint and taking jumpers confidently. He
Mhm.
showed me a little bit better of a handle, a little bit more of a mid-range game, that in-between area where he's able to make shots and create for others. He had 4 assists tonight. I think his career average is like 1.5. So I know
Mhm.
4 doesn't sound like a lot, but for him, that's great. I thought Jakob Pertl had a solid game.
Not
There's
too
something that,
much.
yeah, I mean, truly, there wasn't too much great things that were happening. I thought Doug McDermott was solid coming in off the bench. I think if he can continue that kind of production, getting in around 12 points a game, he came in and he was immediately a difference maker, a flamethrower, because we were missing all kinds of shots with our starting lineup. He came in, immediately hit 2 threes. That's the kind of difference we need. If Josh Richardson could hit a couple threes, I think he would also be a good addition. I mean, I hate to just keep going with the negative, but I mean, this is kind of a positive. I could twist it into a positive. I don't think we'll have another game where Devin Vassell and Romeo Langford, or not Romeo Langford, Josh Primo and Josh Richardson all miss all of their threes. That
Right.
won't happen again. Those guys will turn it around. This is a bad shooting night, jitters, like you said, getting a feel for one another. I think that will improve. And if Devin actually hits more of his shots tonight, we probably have a different game because he was ice cold.
Yeah. I mean, the way that Doug came out, I mean, look, we knew what Doug was when he signed him, but it might just be me. But tell me what you think, Ethan. I kind of felt like it almost looked like the shot was better. Like when it
Doug
first,
McDermott?
yeah, like it was almost like it even got quicker. Like,
Yeah. It looks way quicker. He has
right.
a
Which
very
is
quick release.
crazy because he already had one, but like
Hmm.
it looked even quicker to start tonight. So I like that. And then it's mainly just KJ, kind of like you were saying, KJ, Yak, and Doug, the 3 guys we have on here. But like you mentioned, also, I don't really think that Vassell's going to go 0 for 8 and 3 for 15 every game. Um, Sohan's going to continue to develop and probably not take like the same shots that he took tonight. Primo, I think, like you said, got off to a rocky start, but found some ways to get some playmaking in. Had five assists tonight. Did have 3 turnovers. And wasn't able to hit a 3 as well, and went 3 for 11 overall. But I feel like also watching Primo, and this is kind of what I mentioned after the preseason games. I feel like even though it was still a struggle for him tonight, there were some things that looked a little bit more controlled in comparison to last season. And maybe that sounds crazy, and some of you in the comments may think I'm crazy for saying that, but I feel like I can see like where he's kind of taken a step forward in his development, just in terms of his presence on the court.
I think everything about him improved. The only thing that is still a struggle is
His
just,
execution.
yeah, I mean, execution, and it still feels like he's almost in. I mean, there's a difference, I guess, between confidence and pace. So he has the confidence, but I feel like his pace is almost too comfortable,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. He's too loosey goosey with it because he knows he's so good and he has the confidence to make some good shots and be a good ball handler, that he gets too loose coming off
And
screens.
that's where the turnovers even happen. I forget when you're mentioning this. There's a picture of him driving inside through 2 defenders popping in my head where he lost it.
Yeah, it just kind of feels like he's playing pickup, and he's like, he knows he's the best guy on the court. So, when you play pickup and there's a guy that's obviously way
Right.
better, he's kind of going through the motions. It feels like, I'm not saying that he doesn't have the motor,
Hmm.
of a great player. I'm just saying it feels like he needs to tighten those things up and mentally be more, you know, aggressive and not as loosey goosey with the ball. And if he can just make that adjustment, I think he'll be a lot better because he does have the skill set and the confidence. It's just kind of, you know, twisting that screwdriver a little bit more.
We saw him hit some floaters too, which I feel
Hmm.
like wasn't. I think he missed one too, but like that wasn't something that I remembered seeing much from him. Just in years prior. Um, the other thing you got to remember with Primo is he's still 19. Like
Hmm.
he's basically the age of all the other rookies we drafted. So you kind of got to look at him. Yes, it's his second year and they're hyping him up on the broadcast and everybody's hyping him up because we drafted him with the 11th pick, when he was supposed to be a projected second round pick. right? And there's all this hype from Brian Wright and everything, but it's like still with Primo, like really, like I feel like we can't judge him like completely until like the end of his rookie contract, just because he's so young. Like
Hmm.
I feel like his development is still on track. Like, and especially in the situation that he's in, like, well, first of all, once again, tonight was game one. So this really wasn't surprising to me. Like a bunch of turnovers with a
Me
team full
neither.
of basically teenagers. Like it's like our man Noah Perez said earlier. I'm mentally prepared for the tank. Um, eh, and so like I'm just not really ready to draw like a bunch of conclusions off him, just off this one game. So
Yeah.
after this season, or maybe like midway through, after a month is in, if this is still going on and he's just completely turnover prone, then maybe that's when we can start to, hey, we should pay attention to this. But um just after game one,
Hmm.
I'm not gonna like that still might happen, Ethan, and it might not be his fault. Like it might just be literally the context of being on one of the worst teams in the league and you're 19. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Plus, the expectations have been totally flipped for him. When he was drafted, the expectation was you're going to be an off-ball shooter and play shooting guard next to DeJounte Murray and
Right.
or Trey Jones. With the trade of DeJounte Murray, and they think that he has the potential to be a playmaking point guard, and the elevation of Trey Jones in the starting lineup, all of a sudden he's the primary ball handler and playmaker for that second unit. He's never really played
Mm-hmm.
that position before, as far as I know. Not in Alabama and not with the Spurs. Maybe a little bit in Austin, but that's a completely different role than what we thought he would have. So it's going to take even longer now because we technically don't know if he has that capability yet. We think he does. We hope he does. There's glimpses of that, but we don't
Mm-hmm.
have a large enough sample size or a large enough development track for us to tell yet. And to address Mvezi's age 19 excuse can't last forever. You're right. It'll last 1 year until he's 20, and then it'll be the dude's 20.
Then it'll be oh my gosh. But yeah, you just it's kind of like think about like I don't know. My memory may be failing here, but what kind of happened with Devin Booker? Like how long did it take him for his career to take off?
Well, I think it took a
Let me look up some
year,
stats. Keep talking.
I believe, for him to become a scorer,
Mhm.
was a year, maybe 2 years. I think in 2017 was when he had his 70-point game. He was drafted
Mhm.
in 2015, so about 2 years. But then
Okay.
he wasn't winning until 2020. So it took him 5 years to actually win, and that was with the addition of Chris Paul. So
Well, I think we're both a little bit wrong here
was he
cuz
instantly a scorer? I don't actually
no,
know.
no,
No.
no.
Oh.
He had 14 coming straight out.
Mhm.
Didn't have the greatest percentages, but then in year 2 he did score 22 points per game. Granted though, like and this does go to Mezy's point a little bit. Like it can't be an excuse forever
Mhm.
because Devin Booker was 19 when he was scoring 22 points. And if we kind of view him in that same lens, then he should have a breakout year. But also just the context of the way the Spurs run things, like it's not as easy for like some of those stats to come up. Where when you look at this Devin Booker, like he was the number one dude on a bad Suns team for like 4 or 5 years, like you were talking about, right?
Mhm.
But I don't know. The more we're talking about this comparison, the more it just makes me feel like Primo is not going to be Devin Booker.
Well, I mean,
Um,
a better comparison would be,
I,
I mean, it's not a better comparison, it's actually worse. But Kobe wasn't Kobe until like year 3 or year 4.
mhm,
He didn't average more than 12 points a game or something like that. He barely
yeah,
barely played. Airballed threes in the playoffs. Could barely get minutes, and then all of a sudden he becomes the greatest shooting guard next to Michael Jordan, of course.
mhm,
But I don't want to put. I don't actually think Primo. I don't want to put too much pressure on the kid because we really haven't seen much. All we
right.
know is that the front office and Pop think very highly of him, and his teammates think very highly of him. And he's gotten significant minutes at 19 years old.
There's other people like outside of the Spurs too that
Yeah.
like thought that was a steal too.
And he's got a really strong body. He's clearly been putting in work. Only time will tell. This is only game one. He had a rough summer league. He had a pretty rough preseason until those last 2 games where he kind of turned it up a little
Right,
bit. Let's just give him a chance. We gave Lonnie Walker like 3 or 4 years,
right.
and he barely improved, if at all. You know
And
what I
he's
mean?
kind of ahead of where, like, I mean, well, he's definitely ahead of where Lonnie was because he's
Yeah,
been in the NBA
yeah,
for, when he was
exactly.
younger. But
And we're not trying to win either.
yeah.
I'm not too worried about it. He will develop. We will have to experience some pretty, you know, uncomfortable basketball for the next year or two. But that's
That's a
just
good way
is
to
what
put
it
it.
is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So another thing that a lot of people are talking about in the comments right now is not getting to see Blake or Malachi.
Yeah.
Um,
Thought that was weird.
what are kind of, yeah, I think when you consider that you played like basically the same lineup for the last 8 minutes, I know it's just game one and you don't want to put guys out there who aren't ready, but they played in the preseason. And I know the preseason's a little bit different, but like, at least at the 4 minute mark or something, I understand that. Like throw them in there, just get them some reps, just to share the
Yeah.
wealth a little bit. Cause what we were running, I know you have Primo out there and I understand keeping Primo out there because this whole time we've been talking about it, he's still 19. So
He
you want
needs
to still
reps.
get him as many reps as possible. And that's kind of why Sohan was out there too. But then what? What was the rest of that lineup? I know Gorgie was out there. You had Isaiah Roby too,
Romeo Langford was out there.
right?
And I
And
think
at some
Sohan
point,
eventually got out there.
well, yeah, he was.
Yeah.
But at that point, it's like, okay, maybe with like 2 or 3 minutes left, you can take Romeo out and give it to one of these dudes. Because as much as we have to address Romeo beating out Wheezy here in a second, because I was
Hmm.
completely wrong on that. Um,
Hmm.
but
Me too.
also, um, long term still, like those dudes, Malachi Branham and Blake Wesley, are going to be much more important guards than Romeo moving forward. So when
Yeah.
he's out there getting minutes, it's like, you sure we couldn't throw Malachi out there for like the last four and maybe take Primo out? He'd been playing the whole game and give Blake and Malachi kind of the backcourt the last couple minutes.
Absolutely not.
Right,
That's just how the Spurs roll. Like when the regular
right.
season starts, it's seniority.
Unless it's Sohan
Unless
or
it's
Sohan.
Sohan, apparently. Something tells me the front office had a little bit to do with that. Maybe not. Maybe Pop really does like Sohan a lot, but
Well,
he,
so I heard, I saw some people in the comments not very happy about it, but me and Ethan were talking about this before. We actually don't think he played that bad, and this is kind of what we talked about in the
mm-mm,
last live we did. He is not a developed scorer. He is
no,
not a developed offensive player. So
no.
he is kind of just there to stand and get rebounds and do everything else. Maybe bring the ball up the floor a couple times, make some good passes. And I thought for the most part, I mean, look, there were some struggles playing on this type of team, being 19 years old, starting your first NBA game. But I mean, like, other than and he didn't shoot well, but like I was saying, not a developed offensive player. But other than that, two assists, 2 steals, and 7 boards. Only -2 on the plus minus. Like, yeah, not a great game, but like it for the circumstances, really not that terrible. He's just trying to contribute how he can with the skill set he has at the moment. He's got to work on the offensive toolbox for a while. I mean, it's going to be a couple
Hmm.
years.
He's missing a couple gimmies still, just like putbacks or he gets the rebound and has to quickly throw it
Got
up off the glass, and he
got
kind of
blocked by the rim on that lob late.
yeah, that was yeah. These are I think they're a mixture of both one jitters, just being nervous at 19 years old, being starting in the NBA. I'm sure he's very nervous. So that's very understandable. I would be too. I would be terrible in my first few games, absolutely horrible. I just know I would. I'm a nervous Nelly, and then also he played with Baylor, where he was clearly the most versatile athletic guy right out on the court. So he's kind of used to being able to enforce his natural gifts to score, if you will. So now I don't know if you've noticed this, Jude. He doesn't really pump fake ever. He just kind of feels like, okay, I got this easy layup right here, and then he gets swatted. You know what I mean? That happened tonight, and it happened in the preseason a couple times. He's just getting used to the pace and the skill set and the athleticism that the NBA brings. I'm not worried about it yet. He's not supposed to be scoring. Frank, yeah, lost on close one. That's pretty
Is that
funny.
your dad?
Yeah, it is my dad.
Love
Yeah,
it.
I'm surprised he's still awake. Yeah, yeah, he's just getting used to the up tempo speed and strength of the NBA. I'm not too worried about it. Like you said, he was never a scorer, not even in college, even when he was supremely gifted over everybody. So just give him time.
Yeah. Yep. I'm with you. Some other stuff going on in the comments, just kind of agreeing with Isaiah Roby. Some more
Hmm.
comments about that, and I agree. I think you saw. I mean, he can take the ball before. He's got a good
Yeah,
handle.
he
Like,
does.
it's not. We're not talking about him being an all star or anything,
No.
but like he's got a lot of skills, and he's a controlled player, and he
Hmm.
can. He's just a great, or not. I say great. He is a solid modern 4/5.
He's a more than serviceable Jew. More
Right,
than serviceable.
right, right.
A slight improvement over Keita Bates Diop, and maybe at times Zach Collins.
Hmm.
Maybe at times.
Right. No, for real. Because and here's the thing, I want to say he probably weighs more than Zach. Even if he doesn't
Probably.
weigh more than Zach, he's definitely like just he plays bigger than him.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what you were mentioning. Like I said, I did like the 4 blocks from Zach and the physicality just on defense, but what I don't like is the complete lack of physicality rebounding the ball, which you pointed out, and then it like light bulbed, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're right.
Bro,
Did
you know
not
who?
do that at all.
Sorry to interrupt you, but
You're
do you
good.
know? I did not know that PJ Washington was that much of a bucket. Was he just like on something tonight? Like he was
So
like
I
in
knew
the post.
he he's solid, but I think that we made him look a little better than he actually is.
He looked good. He looked like he was put on a clinic, like high post, elbow, top of the key, 3 point range.
Sohan sagged off on him from 3, and it was like, "Hey, there's your lesson."
That's another thing. I thought Jeremy Sohan actually played good defense, like overall on everybody that he guarded. But dude, Charlotte could not miss, especially Scary
Dennis
Terry.
Smith Jr., dog.
You, where did that come from? The dude's been in
Bro.
the lab apparently.
See, but this is what I'm saying, like, he was a top pick, got bounced around the league, now he's home, and all of a sudden he can shoot, like,
Yeah, crazy.
and he's still pretty young, like, Dennis Smith Jr. seems like he's old and been and washed and been in the league forever, but he's probably, like, 26.
He's drafted in 20
I'm gonna look it up.
the year before Luca. Was it 2017? I think.
Come on now. This is some
Could be wrong.
I can't even get a Wikipedia article. Okay.
Scary Terry looked really good too, by the
Wait,
way.
no way my dude is 24. What? See, this is what I'm saying. Dennis Smith Jr. is 24 still.
Mm.
Like,
If he can continue at this pace, that's a really good backup point guard right there.
mhm.
Very solid. And
Yes.
you know what I don't like about Charlotte? They were making me mad tonight, because
Bro,
this
I think I know where
unnecessary
you're going with this.
swag, like, and trash talking, like they've
Well,
been in
dude,
the playoffs for
Booknight
3
got the
years.
DUI. Miles Bridges has got some Fed cases. There's some, I mean, the list goes on and on
Yeah,
in
dude,
Charlotte.
just
My man
absolute
Booknight came
menaces.
in and got a foul
Yeah,
immediately. No, but like, I forget what happened. Like, it was like the most ticky tack and one of all time early in the game. Kelly Oubre gets it and it's like, and I'm
yeah,
like, dude,
they're all
dude, you
mean
barely,
mugging.
oh, shoot, I hit that. One, you barely got hit, first of all. And two, you're playing like one of the worst teams in the league. Like, like, but with after a certain point, there was like one point he flopped and like he got it got a turnover, right? He got a
Mhm.
charge on Doug McDermott, and he gets up and was just like that way, like it was
Yeah,
a
I
first
saw. Yeah,
down.
yeah.
And when that happened, I just started laughing. I was like, you know what? I can't even be mad at him anymore. He's just straight trolling.
Yeah,
Like,
he's an absolute troll. He like said something to Devin too. Like when Devin went up for a layup, got fouled, and like hit the ground really hard at one point in the second half. And Kelly Oubre clearly on the mic goes, he's like, you can't just go for a layup and then fall and then have it be an and one. Like,
I-
and I was like, that's like the definition of an and one, but whatever. But yeah,
oh my gosh. Well, hey, your dad's got some insight for us on our man Keldon who had the game tonight, or who led the team tonight. He'll lead us all season. And there you go. Good to hear it. And it was funny because I was texting a friend and I was like, we don't need DeJounte no more and his hood stuff. We got wholesome Keldon.
wholesome Keldon, old country boy from Virginia. Love that guy. Such a kind man,
We
kind
say
soul.
that, but I'm sure we got some.
Yeah.
There's some trappers on the team, I'm sure still.
Kelvin had a really nice dunk, by the way, tonight. Shout out to him.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He was kind of the team, in all honesty. Another thing I want to mention on his rebounds, though, is I feel like it wasn't like it was not because he was, I mean, yes, he was fighting for boards, but I think a lot of the reasons why he may get more rebounds this year just because he's having to box out someone who's like he can actually match up with. Like
That's
he's
true.
not having
Yeah.
to box out fours, you know.
Yeah.
So
And
I
did
think
you
we could see
notice?
more of that.
Sorry to cut you off, but did
You're
you
good.
notice his defense actually? I think looks a lot better. His on-ball defense.
I honestly didn't really pay attention that much. So tell me about it. What were your takeaways there?
I mean, there wasn't like a huge, like he didn't have a lot of stats on it, but just watching the game, it felt like he had an easier time staying in front of this man
Hmm.
than in years
That's
past.
good. I'm trying to think. There was something. Oh, 4 assists for him tonight, which may not seem crazy. And we saw him take the ball up more. And it seems
Mhm.
like his handle is a little better. His career high is 6. So this was close to it. And that's kind of something that Sean and Bill were talking about too. So that's something I'm really interested to see. I think we will see a Kelvin Johnson triple-double this season with points, rebounds, and assists. I'm going to call it now.
I do want to ask you a question, Jude.
Okay.
I saw an Easy in the comments saying that Jakob and Sohan can't work together because neither can shoot.
Hmm.
Hmm. See, I really want Sohan to start just because I think that he needs as many minutes as he can to develop,
Hmm. Hmm.
and he's our lottery pick. But I do
Right.
understand where he's coming from a basketball perspective.
Right.
Like a Roby can shoot better, clearly,
Hmm.
and Gord or
I
not
thought he was
Gorgie.
going to start
Yeah,
earlier in the preseason.
and Keita every once in a while can also shoot better
Hmm.
than Sohan. So would you do that and just keep his minutes up, or would you just like to keep it as is?
We're not trying to win this year.
That's true.
Give Sohan the reps.
Sohan,
That's my
sorry, we
opinion.
keep saying
Sohan. Right.
that.
Yeah. See, I came out and said that was the pronunciation and still can't get it right. But what I would like to see though is whether you take out Keita Bates or you take out Zach Collins, I think that Isaiah Roby should get consistent rotation minutes. He's it's one game, but I feel like we've seen enough from him in the preseason and what he did in Oklahoma City, like his actual minutes that he's played.
Yeah,
I'm just like, why are we keeping him out, man?
100%. I agree.
Let's go. My man Sean in the chat. Love him. Love him. He's a goat too.
I really hope that is Sean Elliott.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely Sean Elliott. All right, Ethan. Any final thoughts on the Spurs season opener?
It's gonna be a bumpy ride, but we're gonna get a top 3 pick. Fingers crossed. Knock on wood. Let's
Right.
go.
We'll hope. Hopefully, yeah, that's exactly what you want. I'll answer Easy's final question. Did Jakob have a dunk tonight? Yes, he did. It was actually a pretty solid one.
Mhm.
But I'm pretty sure it was also the only one.
Yeah.
So
He also got blocked, I think, once or twice.
yeah. It's the tank Spurs. You just gotta accept
81
it.
and 1. That's great.
Yes, this is for show.
A rough start to an otherwise perfect season.
Yes, we gotta hope for that first pick. Our man RR210 Texas was in here first.
Let's
And
go.
and
Everybody
also,
cheer for the Jazz.
and look, the Jazz are beating the Nuggets. Oh, another thing. The Pelicans blew the you know what out of the Nets tonight.
I know what you mean, but I also don't know what you mean by blue.
They just blew the crap out of them. Like they beat them really
Ah.
bad.
I was like,
I was
blew the-
insinuating a curse word.
I was like going through all my curse words trying to figure out which one made most sense.
It was an F-bomb. I think
yeah.
they did. I don't know. I just saw like I didn't even see the score, which is probably, I probably should check on that. But they beat them 130 to 108. But
Perfect.
apparently it was like pretty bad, like early in the
We
game.
need
And
all
Zion.
the bad teams to win. So that's what the podcast is going to be about from now on. We're going to cheer for the Jazz, Oklahoma City, the Rockets, Orlando.
We need all of them dubs.
Yeah, we need them all. Who else is horrible? Is that about
Us.
it? Oh, and the Pacers. We need to cheer for the Pacers.
Yes. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we appreciate y'all for coming out to the first SSPN post game of the season. We'll be having more content. We'll be doing clips. We'll be doing some videos here and there. So we appreciate y'all for coming out. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe below if you enjoyed it. go ahead and follow us on Twitter at SSPN on YT, as well as Jude McLaren and Ethan_Quintero. We appreciate y'all. We had fun tonight, even though it was a blowout, and we're just going to have to get used to that. So we'll catch y'all on the next one, and we hope y'all are finding ways to have fun too.